definitely so excited to see who our final victory royaler of today is going to be. But a small discussion we were kind of having during that little analyst deck summit taking place, MDF, I actually do feel like this would be Clix and Veno's prime opportunity to try and walk away with a win here, because if you really dial it back to the last couple of lobbies, one of the notable features that I couldn't help but take note of is the fact that they were encountering Peterbot and Pollo in that mid game, usually around 4th, 5th, 6th zone, and that made a lot of problems. At least it just kind of put their gameplay a little bit more to a halt. Last lobby, we didn't see them struggle in that mid game versus them, and it's more so just the fact that they're kind of just caught at a standstill. And so it just puts like a little bit of a damper into their mid to late game strategy. And I think here now, with Peterbot and Pollo out of the lobby, they might not necessarily have to worry about that.
Yeah, Peterbot and Pollo, of course, are a huge threat to any team. And I was wrong. Quanti's still here, landing, fighting against Mixon and Bugha. I mean, it makes sense, right? You want to put up the, you know, the threat, if you will, your reputation on the line. Listen, I'm not going to back down. I'm going to fight for it. And Quanti and Jabco are really fighting for it, because they kind of have to win this drop, make top 25. If they don't make an end game, I mean, that's wraps. So if there was a team that could have did it, I mean, I would have thought maybe they would have been the ones, but we'll just have to see.
And you know what they say, never back down, never what?
Never give up.
That is Quanti and Yapko, man. they are definitely teeing it up, considering that it has certainly not been a favorable Research Rock day for them today. But, you know, everybody can have a little bit of an off day, but also I think it more so hones into the fact that Bugha and Mixon, they have clearly done a lot of research into Research Rock, no pun intended, and we are certainly seeing them shape up much better than the last time we saw this kind of exchange take place.
You know, now that I think about it, I don't think a caster has ever said Nick A30's line on air. I expect that maybe from Zeke. But Taco just pulled it fast.
There's no way on the first one, man. I mean, technically, you were the alley-ooper. Technically.
That is true. That is true. Well, here we have it, Game 5. More replays, more action. Rapid and Batman Bugha. Fights going down here at the Grim Gate. And a quick cleanup and a finish here. Listen, Batman Bugha, Rapid are in form. They're in tip-top shape. We're seeing it game after game. Discussions are buzzing all around that duo online, and for good reason. The community understands they are a very, very good team in charge of the Grim Gate. Miro and Pink playing the outskirts right now. You saw them. They're gliding past the Batman and Bugas. They want nothing to do with that team in the early game, and it's playing off well for them because they have been one of the few up at the top. And honestly, Taco, I don't think we've seen Miro and Pink struggling for Surge, right?
No, nowhere near as much as some other teams that have been dealing with it so far today, but Convict just trapped like a rat in a cage there. Rapid gonna waste no time with the cleanup crew. And now Grim Gate confidently secured as well by Batman Bugha and Rapid in this final lobby here today. And again, everybody just looking to finish strong. G-Money, Reciprocal, they're gonna find elimination onto Noisy. Now, it's all down to whether or not they can find Tony, the other half of this duo, and just below their current edits, Reciprocal and G-Money, they understand the kind of advantage that they're working with currently. But Tony, he's just gonna full send it. Gets a big chag onto Reciprocal, and that's gonna be his green light to go, but cut short by the backup. 2 is just better than 1 at the end of the day.
Yeah, I respect it. Team also has a little extra something to say there, but hey, look, it drops them up into the 2 eliminations kind of territory. Rebels Roost completely clear now, and the early, I guess, I early revealed the zone right there. It's pulled very far west. That's going to change the way this game's going to play out. We've already seen what happens when the zone's too south, right? With the Storm Surge and stuff like that. And hold up. Vino and Clix have had this incredible advantage last game, but it seems like that it's all starting to unfold here. Vino burning through the Midnight Oil here. Paco and Tekka are hot on his heels here. Clix has to come into the rescue. Vino's base down in metal. Shots come from up above. Paco backs off. And luckily he finds the tag, because if he hadn't, this might not have gone their way at all. And look, attention on the map from the outskirts. There's another duo looking inwards, trying to figure out if whether or not they could put their perspective in on this. And it might be Taco that gets, Paco that gets targeted here. Oh my gosh, T's and P's and Taco, and I'm just mixing names, but
yeah, I'm right here, man. Don't worry.
Going on right now.
But all things considered, though, I think that is a prime example of just how dangerous these set lobbies can be, because unfortunately part of the risk involved with how Clix and Veno like to play their early game strat is very split apart. So it was only a matter of time before a team like Vorteca and Paco tried to take full advantage of that. Veno thankfully had the coverage from Clix to get him out of that sticky situation, but at the same time, that's going to be one of those moments where their early game strategy is just kind of put on a slight hold. And whether or not that comes back to haunt them, we'll have to wait and see. Definitely so many teams, though, kind of just lurking around, trying to see where they can maybe sneak away with an elimination or two. And Scented and Hound are no different. In fact, this team has really struggled to find their drop identity so far today, MDF. We have seen them now at, I believe, at least, at a minimum, 3 different drops. And so it's evident that the strategy here is just getting a little bit of experience as a duo together, since they are one of our newly formed duos in upper bracket here today, but also just trying to figure out where they feel best playing that early game.
Yeah, they still have a shot too. Any team in the kind of 30-40 range just needs a big end game, and they'll be up in that top 25. But look at Cam just working Oliver OG right there when it matters too. This is a 1v2, right? Aminish is already down. Oliver OG is just going ape, trying to jump in the box here, getting a little crazy. And Cam puts up an excellent defense. Now he's trying to break his way through the walls here. Does have to be careful, though, not to overdo it this time around. And there it is. He starts to slow things down, playing slow and steady into the box, so these are not his walls. And Cam is really putting it all on the line here. And I think, you know what? This level of offense here is really, really playing well for him. And they're going to get the reset. He's going to get the pickup. Both sides are going to be able to jump back into this.
That's so huge, though. Craze putting up some excellent defensive measures to ensure you just got to make Cam that much more uncomfortable. Just that little teeny bit of uncomfortable. And am I really going to just win this outright? Because you want to force that trade of revives. And Craze especially, one of the newer players, I think, to this tier of the competitive scene. He's really trying to develop a name for himself, and moments like that are where it can really all begin.
Lock-in bars right now. Playing the low ground. Excellent tag there when the wall breaks, getting the trade onto the Yamso. However, hard to play out of this position here when you have another duo here just to the west. It's Noah, it's Liam. Desperate here, trying to find anything. Baka sees him jump down, and they're just trying to create a stronghold right now. Bucky and Okus are there in the background. Yamso and Tayson leave this mess as well, and Yamso's going way into the storm right now. He wants to likely play for the reboot here to get Tayson back in the game.
But this is all valuable time lost that could have potentially been spent looking for Surge. Instead, Yamso, Tayson, they're going to not only have to work their way back towards the thick of the action because they're playing from inside of the storm, but at the very least, they do have those slurp cactuses to depend on. Baka and Pars, though, here's where it all really started to go wrong for Tayson and Yamso. Excellent patience, the stealth play, just too powerful at times, and Tayson had no chance to ever see it coming, especially from underneath. You don't expect your floor to just disappear like that.
2 eliminations for Rapid and Batman Bugha. So far, so good. Material count should be up and running here before they leave the Grim Gate. There's a couple teams actually waiting on the outskirts for some late rotates from players like Rapid and Batman Bugha there. Jump into the other side. We have Kanata and Cooper. And this is far south. we haven't really seen too much of Kanata and Cooper's early game Storm strategy. Whatever it is, it has been spectacular because they've found themselves consistently very, very above the surge with a lot of damage, but not with a lot of elimination. So clearly it's off the backs of just effective rotates and finding players as they go. But I wonder, with this zone pulling so far north, will it put stress on their damage? They haven't had stress all day today. We'll have to see. Pink and Mira looking in on Rapid and Batman Bugha. So he was one of the players on the outskirts, and he's actually a solo.
And you know, Pink and Mira have actually, they have had very impressive performances because they're not a team that has the luxury of being able to depend on those slurp cactuses for their early surge strategy. Coming out of Charon's Crossing, one of those outskirt positions on the map towards the west side, especially that northwest side, it is not an easy feat by any means. And so for them to still be so consistent and staying within the top 10 threshold on the leaderboard in general today, it is just, I think, a testament to how seasoned they are and how well they actually understand how to play through those kinds of positions on the map and turn them into their advantage.
Couldn't agree more. It's the little things that make the differences. Talking about the little things, the Alonzo and Tayson, the pickup, the save. But look at this, my oh my. Shadow and Virgo sitting here. Who knows why or where they were coming from, but they are back here in the Storm, as are so many other teams. But that's to be expected once you start getting a little bit closer here. Meanwhile, fight breaking off on the edge. What was that?
Imagine he hit the ramp edge off the flaming boost too. He almost clipped it.
Shadow taking shots while he was in the Storm, by the way. Not sure if that was the wisest move given their HP counts, but that knowledge is there. They get to the vendor.
Just trying to claim this space for themselves, this pre-existing builds, letting them know there's definitely some company up ahead. And Virgo, the moment that he pops up from his ramp, just instantly cracked. Only 50 white HP remains, and he is scrambling, but Curly's not gonna let this one go. A massive knock, now translating into the elimination here. Shadow left to run back into the Storm, and granted, we know that it's that early Storm tick damage. The problem is that he is getting chased down potentially by Curly and Raze. At the very least, he will be held by one of these two duos. He's kind of just hoping that Curly and Raze get distracted enough with the other team that, yeah, instead rotate out. So that is going to buy Shadow some time, but I'm not sure that it's time that'll really benefit him at this point because it is a tough situation to come back from.
Well, you know, Shadow kind of asked for it, right? He shot at this team first. He kind of gathered their attention before they got into the zone and healed up, and now it's just all coming full circle here. So a team like Curly and Raze, they put up a great fight, to say the least. Jumping on over to the Rift Island. We haven't tuned in with too many teams that have positioned themselves up here. How are things looking? It's Batman Bugha, it's Rapid. They seem to be catching big upgrades here. Material counts not necessarily the best, but the loadout, very strong indeed.
And you know, everybody was kind of focusing on Redline Rig being left vacant since Peterbot and Pollo got their Victory Royale in Game 4, but Peterbot and Pollo were also consistently making plays for Rift Island. We saw, I think, at least 2 matches where Peterbot had that Mythic Hand Cannon in his loadout. And so that's also just another small location that Batman Bugha Rapid clearly netting a pretty massive benefit off of having it completely uncontested.
Look at this, Pink. When we last tuned in, he didn't have Miro, so he got the save, he got the pickup. I wasn't even sure if he had the reboot card, but it does seem like things are starting to align for them. Miro's still very, very far in the Storm right now. Pink sitting on 3 med kits. There's a lot to continue to play out for that team right now. They're going to be one of the few that are going to be very much below the surge. Now, that is if it even turns on, because the lobby is continuing to get active right now. Chubbs and Skittles with nothing to lose right here. If they want top 25, they're going to have to fight for it, and that is exactly what they're trying to do. And this is way on the outside. This is way on the side of the map. They give it up.
Bugha and Mixon are here as well, way north over by Classy Courts. And when you consider that they start super southeast at Research Rock, and we also saw Yapko and Quantum caught a glimpse of them earlier on. And we were watching a separate box fight take place, so both of these teams not managing to eliminate the other, but now playing from very different positions. It's interesting to see how that one actually played out at the end of the day, because you'd almost expect that there would have been an elimination from either side onto each duo.
Yeah, they should have finished that. Bugha and Mixon actually needed those eliminations as they're 42 below the damage, so they didn't get enough. They weren't active enough. Little glimpse of Epic Whale Muzz there in the center of the duos, starting to land on top of them. Edgy and Ackerman, who we saw make an end game, now jumping in, taking quick care of Paco and Orteca there. Now I find myself almost mixing Paco and Tekka's name to say Taco again. It's so silly. I gotta get that out of my head. I'm just gonna say Orteca.
Might be one of the easier ways to go about it. But
I just gave myself a random tongue twister. Never had it fully developed on broadcast. There it is.
First time for everything. Happens to the best of us, man. Don't worry. Don't sweat it.
Well, let's jump in here. Mixon, see, that surge is on. They are below. They come
First
out
time
the
we've really
zone.
seen them deal with it.
Yeah, this is like early qualifier 1. They had problems with surge. This is the first time we're seeing it since then, and you can see whenever they are having that problem, they don't do very well under the pressure of the storm surge.
To be fair, I think a lot of teams definitely tend to struggle because it just becomes so obvious whenever a team is struggling with those storm surge ticks, because the moment you start barreling into other player builds, they can tell, okay, storm surge is active. These guys probably need it more than us. And so we're just going to hold our edits. We're just going to hold our walls. That's it. We don't have to take unnecessary peeks, or they wait until they hear that shield crack cue, because they won't be able to see when those storm surge ticks are active onto players, but you can definitely hear when somebody's shields get broken. And that might be part of the reason why we saw Bugha and Mixon really struggling there, on top of the fact that that early game didn't pan out 100% in their favor with finding the consistent eliminations that they have been against Yapko and Quanti.
Take a look at Yamzone and Taysom with a big rotate right here. I'm actually surprised they even took to the sky for that long, watching the bases being built all around them, but seems like the comms were good. They make their way all the way on in. They have time to bounce back. Start getting situated here. Who's the teams on high ground? So it's Freeze on the left side, Bugha and Avivv on the right, and they're sitting right on top of Chubbs and company. Meanwhile, Pink loses Miro once again here, and it's just all up to Pink. Pink definitely having the point lead right now for the teams remaining, but that's not enough to go to grand finals. Only a win can do that, and 165 below. You're seeing what happens when you're worrying about saving your team and trying to just, you know, get footing in the game, get to the zone. You just don't have time to fight, and it's showing itself now, and it's unfortunate because Pink is probably over.
He's doing his best, but unfortunately it's just not going to be enough. Flix and Pilot, this is the first time that we are seeing them since our initial lobby, and it's also been an incredibly tough time considering that they are a team first to drop towards that northern side of the map and all these southern pulling zones. The odds have definitely been stacked against them, but it's nice to see them here in this mid to late game action. And that refresh onto Pink might be what they needed. They've had some difficulties with Storm Surge, understandably so, and now they're just trying to see if they can maybe have that strong pop-off performance to, at the very least, net them a position in that top end of the leaderboard for day 2 of Uppers.
What a crazy zone coming this far north. Not a team up there. Everyone's starting to make the rotates here. And you can see how mountainous it is. Hills everywhere. You just gotta hope you pick the right side and the right one. Otherwise, it's gonna be tough bidding if you don't have the crash pads to work with or something. Meanwhile, Vino and Clicks on the outskirts right now. Not in the greatest position, not as strong as we saw them in the previous game. However, they have managed to get their footing kind of back in after that early game. It wasn't looking too good for Vino for a second there, but things might come back around for them.
Yeah, after that pressure that Vorteca and Paco applied to them by Snooty Steps, almost wonder if Veno and Clicks were actually able to secure Forecast Tower. Keep in mind, that is something that they do have the potential to snag up. And yeah, this confidence, that shot from Veno, a massive tag. And that's gonna be more than enough. They're still trying to work their way, breaking down some of these old walls. They don't know who's on the other side, but they can gauge. It's likely a solo or a team that's not left in a very solid position. But no, it's the solo that they're after. It's Cooper. Don't see Kanata in sight, so you have to expect that this is all Cooper trying to come out with a big solo performance here. But Veno Clicks, pausing for a moment. They might know something everybody else don't, or doesn't.
Yeah, no, if you think about it, they have the Storm knowledge of where it's going, because why would they target that team so heavily? Because they know we have to rotate that way. So they start exhausting the material on that duo, and it works out so good for them. It pushes them off the layer. Now they have all that space to work with. Sure, they didn't get the elims or the refresh, but they got exactly what they wanted, and that was the position taken from that team, and the pressure of them sitting on top of them way off of them. So that's going to work out well for Bugha and Avivv. I mean, they're just playing by instinct right now, and it's looking pretty well, avoiding the ultimate low, but kind of sitting above other teams right there. Meanwhile, on high ground, Noxy and Crisp not even taking risks peeking outwards, kind of sitting in their base, coned up, waiting for things to start maneuvering itself, and it's going to bounce right back. This is going to be perfect for a team like Noxy and Crisp right here. If they want to play for high ground, the time to fight for it is now. Otherwise, Bugha and Pars might be one of the first ones.
I mean, this is what, like, our first truly northern pulling zone here today, so it's no surprise that we're seeing a lot of these north-based drop teams starting to pick up a little bit of momentum here. Bugha and Pars, though, currently holding the high ground. We see Curly and Raze insta-rotating towards that front side. Cooper stuck in a slightly isolated position here on the low ground. Crash pad gonna help catapult him over towards that front side of zone, but he sees a metal box. Gonna pop that nitro splash just in case. He's got to get out quick, and sure enough, Pars and Bugha still continuing to hold it down strong on the high ground, but material count maybe not where it needs to be to maintain this.
This is an early high ground take as well. Zone 9 is so early in the game. You have a long way to go, and they're just burning right through it, so expect other teams to start looking up. Vino and Click still alive here. Still playing very smart, not trying to do what they did before, which was an early position for height, or maybe one of the first, I should say, instead. Not necessarily early. I think the timing was good, but there were just way too many strong teams, so I like that they're putting more pressure on the surrounding duos, and as long as they keep that distance, it should be looking good for them. But they have big problems in this lobby. They have a healthy Bugha and Avivv that are cooking right now, working their way through some strong positioning here. Pressure starting to come in. NPen and Duo still alive here. Noxy and Chris give up their position. They start to work their way down a little bit here. Bugha and Pars still have the high ground.
Bugha and Pars, though, is going to be the first one to move forward between the two of them, and now just trying to apply some suppressive pressure on to that secondary height layer. The mid ground wants to ensure that nobody gets an opportunity to try and challenge with any of those crash pads. And also keep in mind, Bugha Pars landing at the shipment station, they do have opportunity for a forecast tower as well. So part of the reason why they may have expended so many of their arm materials early on could be because they also know that slight advantage, but how well will it really pan out for them as Noxy Crisp gobbled up in the low ground. Cooper, impressively enough, still holding on in this low ground position as a solo.
Don't forget, the win is all that matters right now. If you win this game, you are going straight to grand finals. Vino starting to wake his way up to the high ground here, trying to see if there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Will they play for height is the question. They surely are, trying to position themselves. Meanwhile, Cooper holding it down in the low ground right now, getting absolutely active here and continuing to make damage come to life here, but Bugha's gonna find Vino. Clix is gonna take high ground before trading off, and it's damage done on both sides. We're looking at all solos actually in the game, minus Bugha and Avivv. If Cooper doesn't attack Bugha, then this might just be wraps for Clix in the high ground, right? All the solos, unfortunately, have to somehow dismantle what's left of Bugha and Avivv, or they will win this game.
But the pullback from the zone, Clix getting now to run over those pre-existing height builds, that might create enough space. Bugha and Avivv, they've got crash pads that they can utilize. A Minish takes a massive tag. Bugha credited with that one. It all comes down to whether or not they can find Cooper, but it's all questionable whether Avivv even has medkits to play this one out. We saw Clix didn't have any white health, and Clix doing his best to try and maintain the high ground, managed to clip Cooper, but unfortunately enough, the moment that he breaks down into the low ground layer, it's just Bugha and Avivv waiting to strike, and this duo will finally find their victory royale in lobby number 5.
Yeah, Clix didn't waste any time. He's like, you know what, Cooper, if you're not going to jump in, I'm going to. And he tries to find an opportunity there onto Bugha and Avivv. But just like that, Bugha and Avivv win that game, and they go straight to grand finals. You cannot count this team out. Bugha and Avivv always pull through. Take a look at the highlights here, of course. Marching their way to the tune of their own beat, playing absolutely well. Cooper, instead of fighting the low ground team, challenges for height, makes it that much more difficult. And in the end, the big Avivv and Bugha win the game there. Congratulations to them. They're going straight to the grand finals. No more uppers or lower brackets in sight for them. And instead, they get to celebrate today. And we'll see them next week, Taco.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's surprised to see Bugha and Avivv secure their place in the grand finals, but I'm sure that Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly have a lot to say as far as everything that took place here today. So that's going to do it from us, MDF and the Best Taco. Had an excellent time watching all 5 of these matches here today, but again, Analyst Desk, what you guys got for us?